All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, just when things appeared to somewhat be coming together for the Cincinnati Bengals, they received some real bad news today as Pro Bowl quarterback Joe Burrow is going to be sidelined for the next 3 months due to a toe injury. Now, the injury occurred yesterday in the first half of the Bengals' win over the Jacksonville Jaguars as they were able to rely on Burrow's understudy, Jake Browning, to help them win that game. But now Cincinnati must face a harsh reality as they don't have the services of number nine for the next 3 months, which of course is a huge chunk of the season. The question is going to be, will they be able to overcome this setback in order to reach the postseason for the first time in 3 years? Now, the short term good news for the Bengals is that they're currently all by themselves in first place in the AFC North, as both the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens are 1-1, while the Cleveland Browns are 0-2. And of course, Cincinnati is also 1-0 within the division as they defeated Cleveland back in week number one. Now, for Bengals head coach Zach Taylor, he's simply going to ask Jake Browning to be Jake Browning and not Joe Burrow. And of course, when you go to the backup quarterback, you know, everybody around said backup quarterback has to step up. So in this case, you got to lean on the likes of, you know, your big playmakers at receiver. And I'm talking about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Cincinnati's also going to need to get their ground game going. Through 2 games so far this season, the Bengals only have 94 yards rushing. That ain't going to get it done. The thing is, some people out there, of course, feel like the Bengals should go out there and trade for a veteran quarterback. I think Cincinnati is going to go out there and get a quarterback in order to help out with the depth for this team. But right now, I think it is plain and simple. It's Jake Browning's job because you can't go out there and ask somebody who has not been in your building in training camp and all of this time to just come in here on the fly and basically try to wing it. You look at Jake Browning. He's been with the Cincinnati Bengals and head coach Zach Taylor, for that matter, since 2021. First, he was on the Bengals practice squad for a couple of years, and he's been on the main roster since 2023. So there is plenty of familiarity there for him to do this job. Also, it's not going to be the first time that Zach Taylor has had to look to Jake Browning to go out there and fill in for Joe Burrow. Remember, back in 2023, a wrist injury prematurely ended Burrow's season, and Browning was able to go 4-3 in 7 starts that season with Cincinnati, while he completed more than 70% of his passes. But of course, the big question is going to be whether or not the Bengals can stay afloat in the AFC playoff picture, as many people are writing this team off. For me, I look at Cincinnati like this: it's a week to week thing. You've got to take it game by game and see how things work out for you. First and foremost, the Bengals are on the road this Sunday for the Minnesota Vikings. And of course, the Vikings are dealing with their own quarterback woes right now. Why? Because J.J. McCarthy injured his ankle last night. He's going to be out for the next 2 to 4 weeks. And of course, the Vikings don't have that quarterback depth like they did last year with the Sam Darnold there. Tyler Spencer, what's going on, my man? Long time. Happy to hear from you. I know you're happy about your Buckeyes right now, as far as the way that they've started this season. And of course, they really haven't even scratched the surface for Big Ten play. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day, my man. You're saying you're gutted for Joe. I know he wasn't off to a crazy start statistically, but he was still excited for this season. As bad as it sucks, I trust Browning to keep us afloat. After all, he knows the system well. Gonna need everybody to step up around him. Listen, you hit the nail right on the head right there. I think with Joe Burrow, just hypothetically speaking, it was going to be extremely difficult, okay, for him to replicate the season that he did last year. I mean, the Bengals, oh my gosh, they were just so frustrating last year because you look at it, they lost so many games they should have won against bad teams. They played well enough to be in the playoffs, but of course they weren't. You had Joe Burrow, who threw for nearly 5,000 yards. You had Jamar Chase, who had the triple crown for a receiver. And then you had Trey Hendrickson, who was sacking everything that moved. But of course, it still wasn't enough. Very top heavy team. Um, I still said the Bengals had issues coming into the season with the ground game. The Bengals also had issues protecting Joe Burrow, and that's an issue they've had all throughout his career as the injuries, unfortunately, are beginning to pile up. But I think they have a chance, okay, because I'm looking at it again, like we both said, the familiarity for Jake Browning with this system with Zach Taylor. And Zach Taylor, the way I read him, he's smart enough. He's not going to be a guy that's going to go out there and try to ask Jake Browning of doing something that he's incapable of doing. You look at it again, like I said before, they're 2-0. Pittsburgh's 1-1. They lost yesterday to Seattle. Baltimore's 1-1. Okay, Cleveland, they're 0-2, and the Browns, some Browns fans are already starting to break out the paper bags, and we're mid September, so you know what the expectations are there. But nonetheless, Cincinnati's got themselves an opportunity. They have to go out there and take care of their business. I think Zach Taylor believes in Jake Browning. I think this team believes in Jake Browning. Now, one thing I will say, Jake Browning threw 3 interceptions yesterday. You can get away with that against Jacksonville, but you're not going to be able to get away with that with some of the better defenses around the National Football League, some of the better teams in general. So that's something that definitely is going to have to get cleaned up. Like I said before, Cincinnati's got to find a way to start running the football. Okay, 94 yards through 2 games in the National Football League just simply is not going to be able to get it done. Like you said, it's going to take a team effort. This defense is they're going to have to step up, and I think it's still a work in progress defensively for Cincinnati. They're getting accustomed to new defensive coordinator Al Golden. You look at this team. I think again the fact that they won these first 2 games, they haven't played great, but they've been right in it. And again, you look at it, not to sound too long-winded, but from an AFC picture overall, okay, Kansas City is 0-2. Denver's 1-1. Baltimore's 1-1. Pittsburgh's 1-1. Houston's 0-2. These are just some of the contenders that you're going to have to deal with. And of course, if you're Cincinnati, you've won your first 2 games. You look at the Bengals. 4 out of their next 5 apart. I'm looking at it right now. Actually, all 5 of their next games are against teams that made the postseason last year. They're on the road for the Vikings this Sunday. The following Monday night, week 4, they're at Denver. They get the Detroit at home for week 5. They're at Green Bay for week 6. And then they get Pittsburgh at home on a Thursday night for week number 7. So, again, like I said before, it's got to be a game by game situation for the Cincinnati Bengals. Just trying to go out there, trying to get better, and plain and simple, trying to go out there and take care of your business. And even with all of that said, as far as the next 5 games being against teams that made the playoffs last year, all of those teams they got their own flaws right now, and they're all trying to figure it out. So you know what, Cincinnati just needs to stick to the game plan, and at the end of the day, I think they'll be okay. Now, for the Bengals' sake, it's looking like at least 3 months. Okay, you never know how the healing process is. Maybe it could be a little bit quicker than that, but we're looking at probably mid December for a return for Joe Burrow. If that were to be the case, we're talking about being ready for week number 15 when Cincinnati would host Baltimore in a contest that could possibly decide who wins the AFC North. We have to wait and see how things play out. But nonetheless, if you can try to find a way to keep this afloat for Joe Burrow, you know what? It's only going to help your confidence coming down the stretch run right here. You're saying you agree with everything I said. Also, yes, good to see you as well. Hope all is well. Can't wait to see what my Buckeyes can do as they continue to settle in and prepare to open Big Ten play in Seattle. That's going to be a very good game, very interesting game against Washington. Whole nother conversation for another day. But like I've been saying, um, Ohio State, they're rounding into form, and they're probably going to be in the mix to once again get back to the college football playoff. But nonetheless, for Cincinnati, if you could just find a way to keep this ship, upright, and everybody has the man up at this point, just take care of their business, they've got a shot. Okay, I'm not going to say that they're going to go out there and win this division. I think Baltimore still got a lot to say about it. I mean, Baltimore hasn't clicked on all cylinders yet. Historically with Aaron Rodgers, he's a second half quarterback, and I think there's a lot of new parts for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and everybody's still trying to figure everybody out. The Steelers have not played well, and they're 1-1. Okay, so they're going to get it going. The Browns are the Browns. So it's going to come down to Cincinnati, it's going to come down to Cleveland, and it's going to come down to Baltimore. And again, some of these other teams in these other divisions around the AFC who were expected to be playoff contenders have gotten off to a slow start themselves. So let's see if Cincinnati can just keep taking care of their business. There's going to be some people who are going to say, wow, the Bengals simply cannot protect Joe Burrow up front. And they really have had an issue with that over the years. And it's something that just continues to plague them. And it's unfortunate because we're talking about one of the better quarterback talents in the National Football League in one Joe Burrow. But for the third time in his career, he's not going to make all of the starts in a season due to injury. So let's see how that works out for the Cincinnati Bengals. But nonetheless, there's talent there. Okay, and at the end of the day, it's gut check time. Let's just see who steps up and answers the bell for this Cincinnati Bengals team. Lots on the line here for the Bengals. Like I said, I want to see how they look against the Vikings, and I know the Vikings are not going to have J.J. McCarthy on Sunday. I guarantee you, even without J.J. McCarthy, if Cincinnati finds a way to go out there and win that game on the road, huge boost of confidence for them going throughout the rest of the season. And I'll tell you something else. Yes, they're going to be playing with a backup quarterback in that game, but Jamar Chase is going to want to ball out in that contest. And I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you why. He's going up against his former college teammate in Justin Jefferson, the all-world wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. And I look at those guys, and it's kind of like, in my opinion, 1 and 1A as far as like who is the top dog at the receiver position right now in the National Football League. So it's a little gamesmanship going on right there as far as how they want to go out there and do things. So nonetheless, I would imagine Jamar Chase attempting to go out there and have himself a good game. But even with the injury to J.J. McCarthy, Jake Browning's still going to have to deal with that pass rush that the Minnesota Vikings bring to the table. So there's a lot. There's a lot of things to unpack there. But like I said, let's see how they look on Sunday, and let's see how they're able to build off of this. They're going into this knowing they don't have their guy. Okay. Um, but they've been down this road before, and I think the fact that they've won games with Jake Browning, definitely has to give everybody in this organization some confidence that they can try to keep this thing afloat until Joe Burrow comes back. You're saying you're interested to see how they game plan in this first Browning start. Don't know any exact stats, but it feels like Jamar steps up in the past when Joe and T are out. Uh, Jamar Chase is a big time player. You just go back, whether it's his time in the NFL with the Bengals, or of course what he did collegiately at LSU. The brighter the stage, the bigger he plays, and it's one of those where the Vikings have a good D. That's number one. Number two, they have great pass rushers. Okay, so if you're Cincinnati, with all of that said, the best way to try to neutralize that is you have to run the football. And of course, Minnesota's going to probably want to take that away to make Jake Browning beat them with his arm. So that's why I think it's so important for them to get their ground game going. And like I said, he's got to take care of the football. You're not going to be able to get away with 3 interceptions against the Vikings like we just saw him get away with it yesterday against Jacksonville. So I think ball security, the proper decision making is all going to be have to be in play. And if it's there, plain and simple, don't force it. But guys are gonna they got to step up. Offensive line's got to step up. Receivers, everybody, they got to step up because I think it's going to be a total team effort to mask the fact that Joe Burrow is not here. And like I said before, Zach Taylor's not going to ask Jake Browning to be Joe Burrow. Jake Browning has to go out there and be Jake Browning. That's the bottom line. So again, like I said, I think they have a chance. Okay, to to get this thing to keep this thing afloat. It all starts with the game against the Vikings. Let's see how they look. I think Zach Taylor's going to have a solid game plan in place. I do. I will give him the benefit of the doubt on that. Let's just see if Cincinnati's able to execute it, and of course, more importantly, get themselves a win in the Twin Cities. But nonetheless, more bad news for the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. He just simply can't, avoid the injury bug, and it's unfortunate because we're talking about one of the best players right now in the National Football League, and now the Bengals have to try to go out there and figure out a way how to do it without him. So let's see if Cincinnati is going to be up for the challenge. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 pounds of sports knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And Tyler, my man, as always, great to hear from you. Definitely appreciate the comments. And also, be sure to zero back and circle back rather to this channel on Thursday night as I'll be breaking down my key games for the upcoming weekend in the world of college football. And we got a lot of good games coming up this weekend in the world of college football. I mean, you're talking about Texas Tech, Utah, out of the Big 12. I think Arkansas, Memphis should be a very interesting matchup. Auburn, Oklahoma, two ranked teams from the SEC right there. Also, now that we're starting to get into conference play, some of these ranked teams are going to be bumping each other off. You might not want to hear this, but Michigan travels to Lincoln to take on Nebraska. And of course, I know that you're probably going to be cheering for another team in red in that one. But nonetheless, we've got some pretty good games on the docket for this weekend. Illinois travels to Bloomington to take on Indiana. So yeah, so definitely be sure to circle back to this channel on Thursday as I'll be breaking down my key games for this Saturday in college football. For everybody, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out at 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, I'll give you that follow right back in return. Also, the same goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 pounds of sports knowledge. And finally, you can check us out on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 pounds of sports knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.